This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. Today is Thursday, July 26, 2018, and we got a great show lined up for you today, so let's just jump right into it. Joining me on the line right now is Melee Panchel. He is the CEO of Pure Global Cannabis Inc. PureGlobal.com is the website. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I want to get the specifics, obviously, on the breakdown of your company and what it hopes to bring to the table for the cannabis space. But before we get into that, maybe we could talk a little bit about legalization in general. I mean, it's coming right around the corner. October 17th is the date that has been set. So how significant would you say is the legalization of cannabis in Canada going to be recreationally for cannabis-related companies in Canada?
Well, Dan, thanks for having me. And absolutely, the October 17th date that's coming up is significant both for Canada and globally speaking, because Canada is going to be the first G7 country that's going to federally legalize cannabis for adult use without a prescription and for, as you mentioned, recreational use and what we prefer to think of as wellness product as well. It is quite significant versus the medical market, which currently exists in Canada. You're going to see about an 8 to 10-fold increase because no longer will a prescription be required for a consumer that wants to acquire a cannabis product, and of course that's going to reduce the barrier to purchase, and certainly it's a huge milestone for the Canadian public and for the industry itself. Very significant in terms of internationally speaking as well, because it's going to set the stage, as it has for the medical side, for a recreational model that hopefully is going to be adopted by more countries to come.
Very true. This very well could be the blueprint for other countries to follow in Canada's footsteps here. And we've already kind of led the way in terms of medical use. And I am of the opinion that all use is medicinal. I mean, even if you're using it recreationally, you're getting medicinal benefits out of it anyways, whether you realize that or not. Now, obviously, when it comes to recreational, we deal more with the THC side of things, and now people are learning about the medicinal benefits of CBD, the chemical component in the plant. What can you tell us about some of the differences here in regards to recreational and medicinal in terms of THC and the differences in CBD?
Certainly, Dan. So medically speaking, the product tends to favor more of the CBD, which is a cannabidiol component. Depending on the condition, however, there are a lot of neurological conditions that require more of the THC component, which has more of the psychoactive properties. But cannabis really has something of an entourage effect where you need a balance of both, along with a number of terpenes and about 108 different cannabidiols that have been cannabinoids that have been discovered so far. So medically speaking, what we're talking about is identifying that combination that is ideally suited for particular types of conditions. And so we're actually underway in releasing or developing these types of studies where we will look at in vivo, in vitro results, do what we're developing what's called a real-world study, where we will look at various strains and various conditions and determine what are the strains, what are the combinations that are ideally suited for particular types of conditions. It may be pain, PTSD, anxiety, and a growing list. So medically speaking, we're looking for exactly those combinations that are going to be well purposely suited for that particular purpose. When we talk recreational, it's a different, depending on what you define recreational as, the consumer is looking for something that's much more, for recreational purpose. It may be going to the movies or playing games or what have you, not for a particular medical condition per se. However, what's very interesting about cannabis and its use, and what we actually define as an additional sector and a broader sector really, is what we call the wellness sector. It's not quite medical, not quite recreational. However, these consumers are using it on a regular basis for betterment of life. It may be more better focus, it may be better, just feeling better, and a variety of other wellness-related topics. So those are also going to speak to a particular sort of entourage effect that's going, those people are going to sort of be looking for in what they're looking for, a wellness product.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Is a wellness product exactly? If this is what you're using it for, to simply de-stress, after a long, hard days of work or something of that nature, that again, in my view, is essentially medicinal. So it's great that that the two are coming together under legalization very soon. Now, tell us a little bit about Pure Global. As I understand it, you just started trading, I think, a couple of weeks ago, July 11th, and you've already got a market cap of 60 million. It seems there's growth opportunity here. So, what is your business plan moving forward?
Sure, Dan. So Pure Global Cannabis is the parent company of Pure Sense, which is a licensed entity under the ACMPR, which is the current licensed entity that will be operating in the Canadian market right away and potentially exporting product as well, which we're looking to do very soon. So Pure Global looks to be something of a conglomerate, something akin of a Canopy or Chronos, where we will have a number of assets, including such as Pure Sense. We're looking at several other projects to add under our umbrella that will increase our bandwidth in terms of being able to service more consumers nationally and more so internationally. So our business plan going forward is to expand our presence in the Canadian market, both in the medical sector and what we call the wellness the sector as well, as I mentioned before. And really what we're looking to do is develop the products that are going to end up on the shelves of pharmacies and ultimately the regulated retail stores coming down the pipeline. And what you're talking about here are a higher higher grade of product which are developed both pharmaceutically speaking, where we have particular dosage forms, nice packaging, again, those that will be dispensed on the pharmacy level. And these are the products that ultimately can be exported around the world. There's already about 30 countries that have medical cannabis laws. Most, if not all of them, do not currently produce any cannabis themselves, so they rely upon countries like us to move an export product to them. So clean Canadian cannabis is really sought after, and it's going to be for some time to come. And we're looking to fulfill a lot of that demand in due course.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's what the people need and desire here, truly, in an open, true, free and fair market here in Canada. I mean, where I reside, British Columbia, BC Bud has become a globally recognized brand, essentially. And these are growers who have been developing these strains, these genetics, for decades here, to pinpoint certain ailments that some people have. Now, you guys have raised a lot of money. Do you have any plans for another round? Are you looking to raise money again? And if so, for what purpose?
Indeed, Dan, it's a little bit of a land grab, this sector, which is just burgeoning. It's very nascent at this point. We're just the tip of the iceberg, and licensees such as ours are really the forerunners in the industry, where you've basically been given a license to produce the equivalent of green gold, really. And what's required is to expand quickly and to grab as much of market share as you possibly can in due course. So our strategy is to use a very methodical, lean approach where we are diverting or divesting our resources to increase both our footprint for production. Obviously, you need access to sustainable, low-cost product. Although our model also works with other licensed producers to buy wholesale product. For long-term sustainability, we knew you needed a sub-dollar cost to really be able to compete. And so we are expanding our footprint to develop a production multiponic system, which will lend to a very low-cost, high-quality product. But beyond that, we are also looking to deploy capital to invest in the processing and the commercialization of the products that I spoke of. We aim to have an entire line of products. When you walk into a retail store, the big brands don't have just one or two products, they have an entire section. And so we will ultimately have an entire section of products products where it'll be the whole gambit, what consumers are looking for, including topicals, ingestibles, and even food combinations, which we're looking at as well. And so we will need to raise capital for all these purposes. And as the company grows and develops and has the affordability to raise more, we will certainly do so. And the market is hot right now. The sector's hot, and you sort of have to strike while the iron is hot, and that means filling our coffers the best we can for long-term sustainability and for maximum growth potential.
Mm-hmm. Well, at what point do you think you will begin to generate revenue, and can you maybe project when this may begin to become profitable?
Profitability might be a little bit more difficult, but in terms of revenues, and this is a very interesting point that you bring up, being a newcomer into the public markets, basically the ship has just been cast into the water, and we've yet to just really cast our sails, and we're a pre-revenue company, so it gives the investors a real opportunity to get in at really the bottom ground floor. We will soon begin revenue generation as early as 90 to 120 days. We're applying for a sales license, which is the next stage for our licensing to be able to sell the product that we currently have in inventory. Once we package it in 2 lots, we'll be able to sell this to medical patients. So 60 to 90 days for the sales licensing, and soon after that, we will be entering the market and beginning revenue generation. In terms of profitability, let's just say cash flow positive, where our cash flow is above our expenses. That could be as early as Q2 of next year, actually, in terms of the growth trajectory that we have in mind. But our business lends to a very high growth potential with terrific margins, which can lend to positive cash flow very soon and soon after profitability.
Well, what got me excited about this was a report I read from futuremoneytrends.com/pure. I'll put a link to that in the description so people can check that out as well, which kind of gave a really comprehensive overview, and I was able to understand what it was you were bringing to the table. But what I learned from your website, which I'd love for you to expand on, is that you guys have actually developed a kind of a new agricultural process. What can you tell us about your methods that you've developed?
Sure. So, Dan, this is patent pending technology, and we've yet to validate it for cannabis, actually. So I'll have to caveat that. However, what we've done is we have a world-class commercial horticulturist who has a master's in biotechnology as well as a PhD level in plant physiology, and he has developed commercial scale horticulture facilities around the world for various medicinal plants as well as commercial produce. And he's bringing his expertise and passion for these technologies to the cannabis sector. You've got to remember, cannabis was formerly just sort of an underground product, obviously, grown by hobbyist enthusiasts in underground garages or barns or what have you. The real commercial horticulture technologies had not really been brought in until today. And over the last few years, we've actually studied the various hydroponic methods that are utilized in cannabis and found a lot of positive attributes in some, negative attributes in others. And we've actually been able to combine several of these methodologies into what we call multiponic. And what this is going to enable us to do is allow us to use vertical farming technologies or methodologies to really maximize the production square footage, the production output in a square foot given square foot, if you will.
So
we've
growing
tested this
upwards.
That's correct. That's correct, Dan. So it's using the vertical space, and we'll actually be using what's called a rack system. And we're right now on 3 layers that we're working on. We're trying to add a 4th layer, utilizing LED technologies and high efficiency methodologies, as well as automation. What this is going to lend to is a higher quality product, which vertical farming has again and again proven to lead to, with the produce that's extensively produced around the world using these technologies, as well as reducing the cost per product produced. And this is all going to lend to exactly what we're looking for: low cost, higher quality product produced on a consistent level, which is going to lend to the pharmaceutical grade that we're going to achieve.
And is there a focus on, as you said, the pharmaceutical grade? ensuring that the medicinal benefits of the plant will not be reduced. And even in the recreational market, are you interested in ensuring that the genetics will stay true to the plant, that people will still get the medicinal benefits even though they're using it recreationally?
Absolutely. So, Dan, we're using a method called tissue culture micropropagation, which enables us to, again, preserve the genetics and attain that consistency, which is very critical once you're getting into the commercial market. To produce a commercial scale, consistent product, we will identify the ideal strains that are going to be most sought after for the particular conditions or uses that we are introducing our product to the market for. And then we will use this micropropagation tissue culture technology that doesn't rely upon, for example, seeds, where you will have a different genetic makeup coming because you're doing a male and a female, and you're producing different genetics each time. And great when you're talking about populations otherwise, but when you're talking about horticulture, you want to get a sustained genetic continuity. And so we'll be ensuring that all the beneficial compounds in the product that we'll be deploying will have both the medicinal value and the sought after effects that consumers will be looking for.
Excellent. I know that is so important to the consumer, that because a lot of them have really honed in on which strains work for them, which genetics work for their ailments, and it's really important that they can still get access to that in a free, open, truly fair market.
And what's more, Dan,
Mm-hmm.
What's more, Dan, is that is currently, for example, BC bud is a perfect example. A lot of that bud is actually produced underground or through hobbyist enthusiasts or licensed under different regimes, if you will, not as regulated as the mechanism that we're under. What we're after is producing a product that consumers can really trust, that's never going to be tainted, never going to be sprayed with certain pesticides, which consumers end up ingesting. Currently, a lot of that famous bud that's out there is not going through that rigor where consumers can really, be rest assured that there's nothing that's in there that's going to potentially harm them. And that's going to be really the difference down the road that consumers will find with our product.
Well, I've heard some of the fears from the consumers of what the LPs, the licensed producers, are going to be producing. And some of the people, for instance, have you heard of these concerns, are worried about Monsanto seed, about the plant being genetically altered to reduce the medicinal benefits to benefit Big Pharma. Is that something that you guys are concerned with?
When you talk about genetically modified plants, if you will, on the most part, they are developed for plant resistance or to enhance the desired effects that one is looking for, and that's what you're getting in those that are developing particular strains, where you're using methods of propagating and enhancing certain attributes of a particular plant.
Right.
Now, pure GMO, obviously, consumers are not favorable to for obvious reasons. We don't know what kind of effects they could ultimately have on the body. Luckily, with cannabis, I don't see that happening, anytime soon. We got so many varieties of plants to choose from. There's so much science that still needs to be unraveled. So to manipulate the genes and to create something that would be undesirable to the consumer, I think is a far ways to come, and certainly not an area that we'd be interested in.
Yeah, well, I think your timing is great, and it's a really exciting time to be getting involved in this space. So, for people who are liking what they're hearing right now, they want to maybe learn more from you guys. What are the links? Where can they go to get involved and learn more from you?
Well, you mentioned the Future Money Trends link, which you can mention again, but pureglobal.com certainly is a great resource. We have a deck that you can download by entering your information there, and certainly we have information about our team and some of the plans that we have. Certainly that's going to get one started, and by all means, if you have any particular questions, send it off to our contact email that's listed there, and we can respond to any particular questions questions. But in a nutshell, you can see the sector. The average market caps are around 800 or 900 million. There's about 35 or close to 40 publicly listed cannabis companies, and if you compare where we are at versus them, you'll realize that we're very much at a ground level, and our business model is very much so designed that we'll soon be catching up to a lot of our top tier peers, and that's our aim within the next 12 to 24 months. We believe we have the acumen, the team, and the business model to really be a top 10 player, both Canada and globally speaking, and who knows where we can go from there.
Absolutely, I can see it coming down the road as well. So as I said, it's you're positioned quite well, and you have great timing. So I would encourage people to check the links in the description to futuremoneytrends.com/pure, as well as pureglobal.com. Links will be located in the description below. Once again, Melee, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Anytime.
Take care.